Alright, let's talk about 7b. Describe the westward growth of the United States. Include the emerging concept of manifest destiny. Alright, so our focus here is on the growth of the United States and this term manifest destiny. You're going to see that they're synonymous with one another. And when we say growth of the United States, we're talking about growth of the United States westward, going west. And this manifest destiny is going to be typed into that, okay? Alright, so our elements, we have 5. The manifest destiny, the concept, the term that we need to learn. Very important. And with that term, that theme, territorial growth or territorial expansion, is going to be synonymous with manifest destiny, this theme of the United States growing westward and having more territories. 2, Texas. 3, the Mexican Cession. 4, the Gadsden Purchase. 5, the Oregon Territory. All those dealing with territorial expansion and the growth of the United States. Alright, so 7b says describe the westward growth of the United States. And to put this in a picture form, we had the original 13 colonies over here, and then we added the Northwest Territory. Well, actually, all the way to the Mississippi when we won the Revolutionary War, except for Florida, we didn't have it. And then we with the Northwest Ordinance, we kind of established how we're going to settle this Northwest Territory. We had this already, but in 1803 we bought access to the Mississippi River at the port here when Thomas Jefferson bought all of Louisiana territory here from Napoleon and France, if you recall that. And then with Andrew Jackson's exploits down here near where we are and down here in the Gulf, and getting Florida, causing trouble in Florida in 1818. Spain was real weak during the Napoleonic Wars. They're going to sign Florida over to us in the Adams-Onis Treaty. And at that same time, 1819, 1820s, a lot of it's Mexico's going to secede from them or declare, have a revolution or rebellion and become independent nations. So here's Florida down here. It becomes part of the territory of the United States, and Louisiana. So we got all this huge area here at this time, all the way to Louisiana. Well, what we're going to talk about now in 7b is the addition of Texas. And then this Mexican Cession is going to give us California, Utah, Colorado. A lot of these states here in New Mexico are going to be in here in Nevada, are going to be in here in this Mexican Cession. So we're going to acquire this through war. We're going to buy a little piece down here. We're going to take Texas, the Texans that come down in the Oregon Territory. We're going to bully our way into that. So once we complete these 3 here, we're going to talk about now Texas first, and we'll talk about the Mexican-American War and the Mexican Cession we win as a result of winning it, and then the Oregon Territory. How we acquire these 3 bodies of territories here, and then we're going to talk about this, our movement across this vast continent in such a quick amount of time. What was the term or concept used to describe the Americans' ideas that Americans really should have all this from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean? And then you're going to see all these trails going westward already, with the Santa Fe Trail going down to New Mexico, and then from the Great Lakes area here going down to Texas and establishing Tejas. And then we're going to see this a lot of trails. Let me see if I can find a different one. Here's one. Alright, Lewis and Clark went out here on their exploration, and then with the Santa Fe Trail here, this purple one. The green one, the Oregon Trail, is very popular, going out to the Oregon Territory. That was about in the 1840s. Santa Fe Trail was 1820s. The Pony Express, 1860s. And then in Unit 5, I think it is, we'll talk about the Transcontinental Railroad, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, in 1869, after the Civil War. So we see all these routes westward expansion. And, one of the impediments we're going to see, just like in our early part of our nation we've discussed already in Unit 1 and Unit 2, this Appalachian mountain range here, how it kind of obstructed or kept us from settling this fast settlement over here in Northwest Territory and in the Mississippi River area. We're going to see we have another obstacle over here in the west when we talking about westward expansion, is these Rocky Mountains over here, the Sierra Nevada, the Columbia Plateau, the Cascades, are going to be hard to traverse. We saw that with Lewis and Clark You know, when they left and went to the Seattle area over here, when they try to get through these mountains, they need the Sacagawea to help them. So these Rocky Mountains are going to be some geography we need to contend with and learn about when we talk about this westward expansion across this continent. All right, so in the Republic of Texas, we're about to talk about here in a few minutes, and how it was established. Santa Fe Trail is going to lead people down in here. So we're going to talk about it soon. All right, and let's focus on manifest destiny. It's the emerging concept of manifest destiny. Manifest destiny is the idea that, you know, and here's a portrait here that was painted. The idea that God really wanted Americans, was on the side of Americans, really wanted them to expand from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. And it was really destined that we Americans would own this land, and that we should have it. And if we look at this symbolism in the back, everybody's heading westward. Everybody's pointing toward the west, you know. And here's the angel representing, you know, a divine intervention, God wanting us to go. And maybe that's the Bible. She said, I don't know what that is, but you could look and do some research on this porch and probably find out. But here's a telephone wire here. Notice that, you know, technology is going to come with us across as we move westward. We're going to bring technology with us, and we see all kind of people involved, you know, working the grounds and all. We see some Native Americans back here in the back, but everybody's headed westward. We see the buffalo being chased away. We're going to talk about that. But manifest destiny was this idea that God wanted us to expand and own all the land in the West. Alright, so we're going to be talking about Texas, the Mexican Cession, and then the Oregon Territory. Alright, Texas was first. With Texas, we're going to see, you know, in the pink here, it's going to be the original size of Tejas, or Texas, when it declares its independence from Mexico. And then after we have, you know, after their treaty and all, and after the compromise 1850, or before actually 1850, we're going to see that there's going to be a disputed territory over here in the light pink that's actually going to cause the Mexican-American War. And it's going to be claimed by Mexico, and they're going to say that's ours. And the Texans say, nope, buddy, that's ours. And the Americans are going to side with the Texans and say, you know, that's the Texans area here. So it's a border dispute here is going to cause the Mexican-American War eventually. But let's look at Texas first. Texas was originally called Tejas. It was a territory in Mexico, and a guy by the name of Moses Austin wanted to move some people from the Great Lakes area, Northwest Territory, down to Texas, and actually got permission to go down by the Mexican government to go down and establish a colony in Tejas. Moses Austin doesn't make it, but his son Stephen Austin, that Austin, Texas today is named after Stephen Austin, his son establishes Tejas, and then the citizens of Tejas feel they start getting taxed by they get taxed just like the colonists were getting taxed by George III. These Texans are going to be taxed by the Mexican president Santa Anna. Okay, and what do you think is going to come out of their mouth? No taxation without representation. We don't have representatives in the Mexican legislature, so you can't tax us. So here we go again. This history creeping back in from our revolutionary period. So Texas, people in Tejas are going to feel they're going to be treated, they think they're treated unfairly by the taxes they have to pay. So they're eventually going to declare their independence. The people of Tejas, or Texas, are going to declare their independence from Mexico. And just because you declare your independence doesn't mean you're independent. So just like we were, they had to fight against Mexican President Santa Anna, the country of Mexico. One of the battles was on February 23rd through March the 6th in 1836, the Battle of the Alamo. It was a 13-day siege on this old Spanish mission that was there. And it's in El Paso, Texas today, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, El Paso, Texas. And the Mexicans under Santa Anna come here, and they're going to eventually defeat the 100 Texans who are in here. And they're going to have about 1,500 troops for 100 Mexicans inside there, all the Texans are going to die. All 100 will die inside of this thing. And only 400 Mexicans are going to die in this standoff. And one of the cries the Texans are going to use is "Remember the Alamo." You know, that's going to be a rally cry to keep fighting this war against the Mexicans and General Santa Anna. Believe it or not, just like the Americans, you know, against great odds, you know, the Texans are going to win their independence, and they're going to become known as the Lone Star Republic. We'll talk about that in a few seconds. They beat Santa Anna because guess what they did? Okay, this is crazy, but they captured him and cornered him in at the Battle of San Jacinto, just like we did Cornwallis. The Texans are going to capture and corner in Santa Anna there and capture in the Battle of San Jacinto, and the forces were going to be led by Sam Houston. And they're going to force Santa Anna to recognize Texas independence. And Texas became an independent republic, and it remained so from 1836 to 1845. And it's going to want to be entered into the United States, but at that time we're having this argument over slavery, slave states and free states. We're going to talk about it in the next unit, and they were not allowed in for that argument over slavery, and that we were on the cusp of a civil war fighting over the westward expansion of slavery. And we're going to revisit that back in Unit 4 again. Alright, so the Republic of Texas is established now. Again, we'll go back to this other map here. Again, in the pink here, the dark pink is what Texas said, or what Mexico said Texas was, and Texas, no, this is all our territory here. It come down to a border dispute where along this line here, the Nueces River is what Mexico said was Texas' southern border. Texas and the United States said no, it's the Rio Grande River down here. This Rio Grande River is our southern border. That's what Texas says. Mexico says no, it's not, it's the Nueces River. That's what we agreed to. So this little dispute over this border is going to cause the Mexican-American War. Let's see if, yeah, okay. So eventually Texas will be annexed into the United States, and then right after that we had this border dispute. So this border dispute on the Texas border is after Texas is annexed in 1845. Mexico says the northern border of Mexico is Rio Grande, the southern border of the United States is the Nueces River. James K. Polk was the president. Alright, so if we look down here, we see the Rio Grande. There's the river there. Okay. And then there's the Nueces River, this little small river here. Here's the disputed area with the green and yellow lines running through it. That's the area that's in dispute. Mexico says that's ours, and Texas and the United States said no, that's ours. So Texas and the United States said the Nueces River, the Rio Grande River was the southern border of Texas, and the Mexican government said no, the Nueces River is. So this border dispute about what is the southern border of Texas is going to lead to a war called the Mexican-American War. So it's going to go very quickly. This war is going to go very quickly, and a lot of the Civil War generals are going to get some experience here in Mexico, and it's going to be over very quickly. General Winfield Scott and all of them go into Mexico City and take over. A very quick war. And in the treaty is what we want to look at, not too much in the battles. In the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ends the Mexican-American War. So the Mexican-American War comes to an end in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And Mexico is going to cede what later becomes California, Nevada, Utah, part of New Mexico, and part of Arizona, this area here, and the medium color gray here, this large area here. It's what we call the Mexican Cession. So they cede that to the United States as part of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And they also agreed that the Rio Grande is the southern border of Texas. So now we got all this Texas area here, and now we got this huge Mexican cession here. Now after that we asked to purchase this little small area down here called the Gadsden Purchase, and we paid $15 million for it in 1853. And that Gadsden Purchase is going to settle the southern border of the United States there. So here's a different picture of the gas and purchase below Arizona and New Mexico here. Okay, so that's going to give us, when that is completed, the Mexican-American War is over with, and we have the Mets concession, that's going to give us territory to Texas. Southern border is going to be established with the gas and purchase. The Mets concession here, a huge area. All we have left to get is Oregon territory, and we'll be complete. So we own all this land now, all the way around in here, except for Oregon. Now Oregon, we get, it was jointly occupied. Actually, Russia's there in the Oregon territory. United States citizens are there, and even British citizens are there. And in 1814, thousands of United States settlers moved there on the Oregon Trail. And the Oregon Trail run from, say, Missouri, Independence, Missouri, out to the Oregon City area. And a lot of thousands of American citizens are going to go there seeking a better life. And again, what they're going to come into contact with now, what's going to resist their, or make it more difficult for them going across there, is this Rocky Mountains here. And there's a lot of stories that are very interesting about, you know, how they suffered going across those Rocky Mountain valleys. So the Oregon Trail takes them out there. James K. Polk was running for president, and he, as part of his campaign, he wants to take Oregon from Great Britain, and he wants to, as part of his campaign, say that the United States wants all the land up to 5440 line of latitude. And 5440 is all the way up here into what is today British, is Canada. 5440 is way up here in this purple area, right in here. We're going to return this in a few minutes. But part of James K. Polk's campaign slogan is 5440 or fight. Many Americans advocated and supported war with Great Britain a third time, if we had to get control of the Oregon Territory, that area there, Oregon Territory. And we want all the way up here to 5440. Cooler heads prevail, and Great Britain makes an agreement with the United States and makes a compromise line here on the 49th parallel. Great Britain's going to take this upper part here, and we're going to take this part here and call it the Oregon. Call it Oregon, and it's going to become Oregon and Washington State, part of Idaho. And we're going to, this is the Oregon Territory we're going to get here below this 49th parallel. Okay. And this is just a different view. Here's 5440 parallel line of latitude. Here's the 49th. It's going to establish the northwestern border of the United States. Okay, there it is there. This is what we get down here. Alright, so Manifest Destiny is complete by 1853. In other words, this is what we have. We have the United States we won in the American Revolutionary War, and we have Louisiana Purchase here, and then we have Florida in 1819, and then Texas is annexed in 1845. Then we have the Mexican-American War, and we win the Mets concession by 1848, and when we buy the gas and purchase from Mexico by 1853, and then 1846 we get the Oregon Territory through this compromise with Great Britain, and that establishes our growth all the way to the Pacific Ocean. And we're going to meet this Manifest Destiny. We're going to own all the land from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. Alright, so did we achieve what we set out to do? Describe the westward growth of the United States, include the emerging concept of Manifest Destiny. I think we have. Look back over this if you need to. You need to know each one of those areas, be able to locate on a map, maybe on a test. If you need any help, please feel free to ask me in class. Good luck on the test. Alright, let's talk about 7b. Describe the westward growth of the United States. Include the emerging concept of Manifest Destiny. Alright, so our focus here is on the growth of the United States and this term Manifest Destiny. You're going to see that they're synonymous with one another. And when we say growth of the United States, we're talking about growth of the United States westward, going west. And this Manifest Destiny is going to be typed into the Gadsden Purchase, 5, the Oregon Territory, all those dealing with territorial expansion and the growth of the United States. Alright, so 7b says describe the westward growth of the United States. And to put this in a picture form, we had the original 13 colonies over here, and then we added the Northwest Territorial, well, actually all the way to the Mississippi when we won the Revolutionary War, except for Florida, we didn't have it. And then we with the Northwest, Spain was real weak during the Napoleonic Wars. They're going to sign Florida over to us in the Adams-Onis Treaty. And at that same time, 1819, 1820s, a lot of it's Mexico's going to secede from them, or declare, have a revolution or rebellion and become independent nations. So here's Florida down here. It becomes part of the Territorial United States, and Louisiana. So we got all this huge area here at this end, okay? Alright, so our elements, we have 5. The manifest destiny, the concept, the term that we need to learn. Very important. And with that term, that theme, territorial growth or territorial expansion, is going to be synonymous with manifest destiny as theme of the United States growing westward and having more territories. 2, Texas. 3, the Mexican Cession. 4, the Gadsden Ordinance. We kind of established how we're going to settle this Northwest Territory. We had this already, but in 1803 we bought access to the Mississippi River at the port here when Thomas Jefferson bought all of Louisiana territory here from Napoleon and France, if you recall that. And then with Andrew Jackson's exploits down here near where we are and down here in the Gulf, and getting Florida, causing trouble in Florida in 1818.